Here we are, guys, for your Draftstars review show for the week. We're starting off with that first game of the week with the Broncos up against the Knights there. And there's some interesting picks that went really well. Ezra Mann came out and did a great job in his first game. I was speaking about in the preview about Reynolds being the must-have, and that would help, obviously, the outside backs for the Broncos. And then he was out, and then I decided not to pick Cobbo and Oates there, and they both dominated again. Needed both of them to win this week, so you could use the money elsewhere and do really well. But I ended up going with Stags personally. At 65 was solid, and then just having Carrigan would have been ideal. Using that extra cash to pick up Paddy, had back to one of his better games, which we've been speaking about the last few weeks. That Paddy would be that guy that would get a bunch of tackles there. Anything close to game in terms of possession, he was going to get over 40 tackles and do really well. So that worked out for Shark 42 in this one. So well done there. Obviously, some decent picks in amongst some misses, obviously, with how good Cobbo's going at the moment. Move to the second game of the week there with the Tigers Dogs, and Carraz came in and did a great job. And we spoke about him if he was going to get a start. He's super talented and could do a lot of good things. And then it was just like, which other cheapie do we pick? And I went for Tupou after a solid game last week, and didn't play so well. But Stafford Toa was the one to go for, and Burton over Hastings was the way to go. I spoke about you could potentially try and play Hastings and Burton there with the flex and also the starting side, and it didn't happen for me, but well done for this guy. And Jeremy Marshall King came out with a bang. Went for Max King in the starting role, and he did okay without being spectacular. He got the minutes that we would have hoped for, and Lukey Garner getting that start on the edge was a good way to go. So other than that, pretty solid all around. But just well done for the teams that had just that super amount of consistency there in that second game of the week. Move to number 3, and the Eels beat the Seagulls there. And again, I just went okay in a majority of my teams this week. Just didn't catch the luckier big scores there. And Tuipulotu was solid there. And Cola just wasn't as good. But Penasini had he's close to his best game of the year in terms of scoring, definitely. And Ruben Garrick, same thing. Had a really good game. Also, if you went Lockie Croker, you had Lane Madison. And then a couple of cheapies, you obviously worked out all right. Davies starting, ended up only getting 17, and Papali'i being close to the must-have that he was, ended up spending a little bit of time off the park and just not doing as well. Got the try assist at the end, but it wasn't enough, obviously. I'd had 3 of those other guys that did really well in the Croker, Lane, and Reed, for example, but it just wasn't enough to claw back those scores from Garrick and Penasini. And we know that's where the games are won, is in the outside backs, and then in that flex as well, because the majority of people will have a similar group of guys in those other sections there. Cowboys and Storm, obviously, not everyone would have been able to pick this. I definitely wouldn't, even though they're my team, the Cowboys. But I went pretty cheap in the outside backs, thinking that they'd be able to do okay and spin up a little bit elsewhere with Munster and Harry Grant, which didn't work out, obviously, with the Storm getting smashed. So that was a loss. If you went for any of the Cowboys guys on this side, then you did really well. So Jeremiah Nanai, Gilbert, these types of guys there did a great job. And then Kafusi coming out and getting his best game of the year, after averaging close to 30 the last bunch of weeks. So that was that in the Cowboys one. Very well done to anyone who decided that Cowboys were going to win that game. I commend you on that one. All right, so move to the last one that I've played, and that was the Roosters and the Panthers. And the Panthers coming away with another win. They just continue to dominate apart from that one game against the Eels. And this week here, Cleary was obviously the man to pick. If you went Luai, you could have spent up that money a little bit elsewhere. And that Butcher, I said, was a must-have, and that worked out well. Sorensen off the bench has always been great. He got 51. And then the rest of the guys didn't really step up too much, unfortunately. Fisher Harris and Takaaho were back. We've been speaking about Kiri the last few weeks, about he's really improving his scores and just his output in general in games. And he's now someone that should be on our radar the next bunch of weeks. He won't be playing Origins. That round 13 one, he should be out there really to dominate the game there. And that's all the ones that I actually played. And then we had the Bunnies and the Raiders. We had a few picks in this one. Obviously, Trent Peoples was our cheapie to go for, and just a 30-odd score for him was okay. But again, at that 10,800 price point, he was fairly solid, but without being spectacular. We spoke about Damien Cook being pretty close to the must-have at that most expensive player position and the half hooker, and he did really well with a big score there. And then we had guys like Starling, if you want to potentially pick them, and Papali'i, who scored a try last week and then happened to do the same again. Guys like Horsburgh got extra minutes off the bench, so again, that plug and play that we always talk about, he was solid. And then Adam Elliott in there as well. So he was decent as well, getting you a 40 odd there, Mr. Adam Elliott. If we went to the Dragons game, I spoke about Ben Hunt being a great option this week up against the Warriors there, and the Dragons going to hopefully come out and win well. And they won without being crazy. So Ben, a solid game from him, but it was Sean Johnson that really stepped up and dominated this one a couple of weeks in a row. He's been really, really good. So that was a little bit out of the blue, to be honest, but it's good to see him back and scoring well. Torquil Harris did had a solid game there, and he was on there fairly cheap, 14.5K, and I think from next week onwards, he's going to be one of the guys that we want to target for sure. Other guys that we could have picked up and I've spoken about regularly now is Reece Walsh, and he's continued to score pretty poorly, unfortunately, and just not get really involved in a lot of the attacking stats, and that's really been killing his scoring at the moment, unfortunately. So Reece, I think we almost just park him. We might be able to play him, in round 13, for example, but generally he just hasn't been scoring well enough for you to pick him, and he still continues to stay around that 14,500, along with Ponga, for example, there. And the last game of the round, we had the Titans and also the Sharks, and we had Nico Hines was obviously a great option there. You could have gone Blake Brayley as well, but a little bit more left field that would have been. Spoke about Lockie Miller on his debut at a fairly cheap price, being someone you could just take the risk on, and he really paid off. He was awesome, along with Connor Tracy and even Jaden Campbell. All three of them had great games, and if you picked any of those three, you would have done really well. Spoke about McInnes being a must-have, and that mid-50 score was really solid for him. And then anything other than that, it wasn't a lot of guys that we were looking to select. There was, Talakai we could have picked up at a really high price and hadn't been scoring well the last week. So if you avoided him, you did really well. But that's the 8 games for round 11, guys. I wish you all the best of luck heading into round 12. I'll be back home in Sydney, so it'll be a lot easier to sort all this out. But as I hope you're enjoying these videos, hit that sign up button in the description below, and we'll catch you in the next one, guys. See you later.